Imagine a time so far back in the archives of history that the source material we're looking at today describes it as the days when, and I quote, the Earth was still learning its own name.
That is such a striking image to start with. It just immediately sets the tone, doesn't it?
It really does. We're not talking about some dry, dusty textbook today.
Mm.
We're doing a deep dive into a narrative text called Melchizedek and Abram, Bread and Wine Under the Stars.
And reading through it, it feels less like a historical account and more like a film script almost.
Exactly. It describes a time when rivers spoke with the patience of elders and the stars.
Oh.
They felt close enough to touch. But we're not just here for the poetry.
No. We're here to look at a massive collision of two completely different worldviews.
Right. It's a clash between this world of kings and armies and, transactions.
Versus a much quieter, stranger world of faith and listening. And right at the center of it is Abram.
And this is before he was Abraham.
Exactly. Before the name change, the text introduces him as a shepherd of long roads. And I think that's a vital distinction for anyone listening to really get the stakes here.
He wasn't a king, not a priest.
No, he was a man of, and I love this phrase from the text, promises without a map.
Promises without a map. I mean, let's just hit pause there for a second. That sets up the character perfectly, but it's terrifying.
It is, because usually when you leave civilization, you have a plan. You have a destination.
You have a GPS pin drop, at least.
But Abram didn't. He left Ur, which the text paints as this place of comfort, polished streets, temples, all because of a voice.
And let's clarify what this voice was, because when I hear voice from God in these old stories, I'm picturing, thunder and lightning, a beaming cinematic voice.
No, and that's a specific detail the source really emphasizes. It describes it as something he felt in his chest, a vibration, like an ancient drum.
So not an external command, more of an internal resonance.
Yes, and it just said, go and walk.
Which, to be honest, sounds insane.
It requires a stubborn kind of faith. You're trading a city of certainty for a desert of uncertainty, all based on a feeling in your chest.
So you have this ultimate road trip scenario. Abram and Sarai are just wandering, but then the text just shifts gears completely, violently.
The peace is broken. We go from this quiet, meditative wandering straight into a geopolitical disaster.
The War of Kings.
Mm-hmm.
This part was intense. The text describes 4 kings from the east descending like a dark tide.
Yeah, chariots like rolling blades. It's very vivid. And they're crashing against 5 kings from the valleys. It's like World War Z.
And the location here is important for what happens next, right? This happens in the valley of Siddim.
Right, which the text is very specific to note was full of bitumen pits.
Tar pits.
Tar pits, exactly. Asphalt. And I don't think that's just set dressing.
So why focus on that?
Well, think about the tactical nightmare. Heavy chariots, horses, clashing in a valley that's basically zodded with these sticky, treacherous traps.
It's just chaos.
Total chaos. And in that chaos, the dark tide, the Eastern kings, they win. They sweep through, they loot everything, and they take captives.
And this is where the story pivots. It goes from being a war documentary to a personal rescue mission. Because they capture Lot, Abram's nephew.
So news reaches Abram. A fugitive arrives, breathless, and drops the bomb. They've taken Lot.
Now, if this were a movie, this is where the hero puts on the armor, gives a rousing speech to the thousands of soldiers. But Abram is a shepherd. He's not a general. How does he react?
That's the fascinating part. He doesn't panic, but he also doesn't act like a king looking for glory. He acts like a patriarch, a head of a family.
And he gathers his people, specifically 318 men.
That number is so specific.
It is, isn't it? Why the exact head count?
It signals this isn't a rounded-up army. It's a roster. And the description of who they are is the key insight. The text says they were born in his house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So not mercenaries.
Not at all. Not hired swords. They were, and this is another great line, a family with spears.
A family with spears.
Yeah.
I love that. It feels desperate, but also incredibly loyal.
It changes the whole dynamic. This isn't an imperial army marching for land. It's a household marching for a relative.
But let's be real, 318 shepherds against 4 victorious kings. I mean, that sounds like a suicide mission. How do they possibly pull this off?
By not playing by the king's rules. Abram is smart. He knows he can't win a straight-up battle, so he waits.
He waits for nightfall.
He waits for nightfall, divides his forces, and the text says they moved like shadows.
Classic asymmetric warfare.
Exactly. It's a special ops raid. The enemy is probably celebrating, drunk, secure in their numbers. Abram uses surprise, darkness, speed.
And it works. They chase him all the way to Hobah, north of Damascus. They get Lot back. They get all the goods back.
Mission accomplished. But as they return, the text says the stars seem to be watching with a different attention.
I love that line. It's like the physical battle was just the warm-up act.
The real test was about to begin. The spiritual confrontation.
And this happens in the Valley of Sheva, the King's Valley. It sets up this tale of two kings. It's so cinematic. Two figures approach Abram. On one side, you've got the King of Sodom.
The survivor from the tar pits.
Right. And the text describes him as having a sharp smile and words that weighed less than the gold he offered.
Ouch! What a devastating description.
It paints a picture immediately. Superficial. Slippery.
He walks up to Abram and he offers a deal. He says, give me the people and take the goods for yourself.
Okay, let's unpack that. Because on the surface, it sounds kind of generous. Hey, you won. Keep the loot.
But look at the worldview underneath it. Give me the people. To the king of Sodom, people are just commodities. Resources to be traded.
And the goods are a bribe.
The goods are a bribe to buy influence, exactly. He's trying to pull Abram into his system, the system of transaction where everything and everyone has a price.
And if Abram takes the money, he's basically owned by Sodom.
He's indebted. And Abram sees right through it. He refuses. He says, I will not take a thread or a sandal strap so that you can never say I made Abram rich.
That is such a powerful refusal. He is rejecting the whole system.
He's saying my sustainability, my wealth, it comes from somewhere else.
But just as this tension is hanging in the air, this awkward silence, the third player arrives.
And the whole atmosphere changes. Melchizedek.
The king of Salem. And the visual contrast is so vivid. Melchizedek comes down from a hill. He's not wearing armor, just a simple tunic.
And the text says his eyes had the depth of ancient wells.
And look what he brings. The king of Sodom brought a transaction. Melchizedek brings bread and wine.
Not gold, not weapons, bread and wine.
Why those two things specifically?
It's huge symbolism. These aren't spoils of war, they're gifts. Bread is the symbol of home, of sustenance. Wine is the symbol of celebration.
So he's changing the context from a battlefield to a dinner table.
He's turning a war zone into a meal, and he introduces himself as the king of Salem peace and the priest of the God Most High.
And this is a pivotal moment, right? Because it's the first time Abram hears that title for God connected to someone else.
Yes. And Melchizedek blesses Abram. But notice what he doesn't do. He doesn't congratulate him on his tactical brilliance.
He doesn't ask about the night raid?
No. He says, blessed be Abram of God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hand.
He reframes the entire victory.
Completely. He's telling Abram it wasn't just your 318 spears, it wasn't just your strategy, it was the creator.
And Abram's response is to give him a tenth of everything, a tithe.
And the source is clear on this. This wasn't a tax. Melchizedek didn't hand him a bill.
It was what?
The text says, it was not tribute, it was recognition. Abram was recognizing a spiritual authority that resonated with that voice in his own chest.
He's aligning himself with the King of Peace.
And explicitly rejecting the king of Sodom. Now here's where the deep dive really earns its name. The source takes us deeper than the standard account. It describes a private moment.
The tent scene.
Abram invites Melchizedek into his tent.
And this is the philosophical heart of the text, isn't it?
I think so. It's an intimate conversation.
Yeah.
Abram asks a question that I think every leader has asked. How do you govern a city of peace?
Which seems impossible in a world of warring kings.
And Melchizedek's answer is so beautiful, but so challenging. He says, by listening. To people, yes, but mostly to God.
And then he says something about walls.
He does.
Yeah.
He says Salem isn't built on high walls, but on justice. When justice is missing, even the thickest wall cannot resist.
That's counterintuitive. We think security means walls. He's saying security comes from justice.
Right. But then Abram gets personal. He asks about the promise of a child, the whole reason he left Ur, that hasn't happened yet. He asks, and when the promise takes a long time...
The waiting, the hardest part.
And Melchizedek smiles, and he gives him a metaphor that I think defines this entire episode. He says, then the soul learns to be a tent, not a palace.
The soul learns to be a tent, not a palace. We ever stop and unpack this? What does that mean?
He explains it. Tents move, palaces cling. Think about it. A palace is fixed. It has deep foundations. It says, I am here. This is mine. I am not moving. It's rigid.
It protects what it's accumulated. A bit like the king of Sodom.
Exactly like the king of Sodom. Possessive, static, fearful of losing things. But a tent is ready to move at a moment's notice. It's adaptable. It offers shelter, but it doesn't claim the land forever.
So he's talking about a mindset.
He is. He's telling Abram that to follow that voice, his inner world has to stay like a tent, ready to be pulled up and moved whenever the caller says go.
Because if your soul becomes a palace,
You stop listening, you're too busy defending your walls, you become obsessed with maintenance instead of movement.
wow, that redefines patience for me. I always thought patience was just passively waiting. He's saying it's active, it's staying mobile.
It takes more strength to live in a tent, exposed and ready, than to hide inside a palace.
So dawn comes, Melchizedek leaves. Abram goes back to his life. But the memory of Melchizedek, the text says, stayed with him like a fixed constellation.
A king without a sword, a priest without a temple, he became a reference point, a reminder that there's another way to be a king.
And then we jump forward in the narrative. The promise is silent again. And the voice returns.
Yes, the famous moment. The voice tells him to go outside, look at the sky, and count the stars.
If he can. And he believes.
And that belief, the text says, is counted as justice. It connects back to the bread and wine. Abram understood that promises are sustained not by his strength, but by the fidelity of the giver. He was back in the tent mindset.
And the source gives us this little glimpse back into Salem. It shows Melchizedek walking the streets at dawn, blessing ovens and wells.
Teaching children to listen to silence, it just reinforces this idea of an active peace built on justice, not force.
So the story moves on. Abram becomes Abraham, father of multitudes. He has his son. But the text includes this beautiful, maybe imagined final meeting.
When they're both old men.
Two ancient figures. They break bread. They drink wine. No big speeches.
Just a short dialogue. Melchizedek says, "What began as a march has become a path."
And Abraham responds, and the path has become family.
It brings it all full circle, from the family with spears to a family as numerous as the stars.
The journey wasn't about conquering territory. It was about building a lineage of faith.
And the text wraps up by calling these stories seeds. It says they're not just for the past. They are bread broken for the road. For us, now.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, you're left with this stark contrast. You have the king of Sodom on one side, the sharp smile, the transactional life, the palace that clings.
And on the other, Melchizedek. The bread and wine, the listening, the justice that doesn't need walls.
And standing in the middle is Abram. And, standing in the middle is, well, it's us.
We all have to choose which world to belong to, and the choice really comes down to that metaphor. Tent or palace?
It's a tough question, isn't it? Are we building lives that are rigid, defending what we think we own? Or are we building lives that are like tents, humble, mobile, and attentive to the voice that might say, move?
It's the challenge of trust. A palace trusts its walls. A tent trusts the one who leads the journey.
So here's our challenge to you, the listener. Tonight, if the sky is clear, go outside. Look up at the stars. And while you're looking, just ask yourself, is my soul a palace or is it a tent?
It's a question worth asking under the starlight.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on this journey. It's been fascinating.
A pleasure, as always. Keep listening to the silence.
See you next time on The Deep Dive.